Welcome again to Cottage Talk. I'm Russ Goldman. Joining me right now is a full house of co-hosts. I've got Giannis, I've got Max, and I got Tony. In this episode, it's going to be a little bit different than our normal post-match show. We're going to focus on the match pretty much in the second half of the show. But in the first half of the show, I'm going to be asking the question to all three of my co-hosts, and I'll be sharing my thoughts on this as well. What should Shahid Khan do with Marco Silva? The reason why I'm bringing this up now is that there is a lot of reported speculation that Nottingham Forest could be interested in Marco Silva. Very much interesting stuff for us to dive into. But before we do anything else, I want to welcome everyone to the show. Mr. Janaeus, how you doing?
Fabulous. A little disappointed after the result yesterday, but we've got that lot from the Northeast next week, and we move on. Right. Who knows? Maybe we'll have a new manager.
Who knows? That's a very interesting thing that you say that. Mad Max, how you doing?
I'm good. I think, we showed Arsenal the reason it's so tough to get 3 points at Craven Cottage nowadays.
Yep.
But I think as you mentioned in the intro, the future of the club is very. I just can't even imagine a Fulham without Marco Silva at this point. He's been here since 2021.
5 years.
It's incredible, and in an era when managerial longevity just seems like a thing of the past, we've been lucky to have stability. And I don't know why Marco would ever want to go what's happening at Forest. I don't know why any manager would look at that club and think that's a good.
I agree with you, by the way.
So that's just how I'm operating. But who knows? I mean, we know what Marco Silva is, and he's left clubs mid-season before for what he thinks is a better situation. So
he has.
That's his history, but he also has history with us. So
5 years, like I said, it's a tough one, but I think it's something that I really wanted to talk about because the show that we've been doing for a long time, it's more than just breaking down the matches, looking back at it. It's talking about the club in itself and how it works and our thoughts on it. And we're going to do that in this episode along with talking about Arsenal. Mr. Gold, how you doing?
I'm very well, Russ. All good. Looking forward to it.
Okay, great. So before we dive into all that, I do want to just get your opening thoughts. We will spend the second half of the show talking about the Arsenal match in a little bit more detail. But Tony, I'll just start with you. Just give me your thoughts overall on this 1-0 loss to Arsenal, which on reflection, looking back at it, I think it's fair to say it's a good performance. Give up a very bad goal, as I'll say that. I know you're going to agree with me on that. What do you make of it?
Yeah, look, given the players that we had out, the team that Marco Silva started with, and the way that we limited Arsenal pretty much for the 90 minutes, I thought we huffed and we puffed and we did okay. I'm disappointed that we lost the game with the goal that we conceded because, I don't know how many more games we can carry on playing where, this zonal marking from corners is just a joke. We just can't defend. The amount of goals that we've conceded from those situations is appalling. And the fact that Marco Silva and his coaching team haven't addressed it is even more of a worry for me. Because to lose that game on that particular goal, was just it really poor. Having worked so hard to stay in the game and defended the way that we defended. And listen, it wasn't great to watch. But you know what? You're playing Arsenal, got the best defence in the league. Sometimes you have to be a little bit negative, and you have to line up a little bit, negative in that way. And Fulham did everything they possibly could to stifle them, and they did. But as I said, to lose the game on that goal, very disappointing. But it's at the end of the day, it's another defeat, Russ, and that's now 3 defeats on a row. And we got Newcastle, next week, who also got beat yesterday, and they'll want a response. So it's getting tougher and tougher as the weeks go on. And what concerns me even more, Russ, is that we've got £70 million worth of talent sitting on the bench every week. And it just doesn't make sense to me. It genuinely does not make any sense to me. So there's a lot that we can unpick, and there's a lot that needs to be looked at. But for me, that's the most worrying thing, is that why is Kevin and Smith Rowe, why are they not playing in this Fulham side?
Interesting, because you and I have talked about this, and we'll talk about it during the show, especially when we talk about the second half and my thoughts in regards to why can't Smith Rowe and Josh King play together. I've been making that argument, but we'll get to that. Giannis, give me your opening thoughts on the loss to Arsenal.
Well, I thought the lads put a shift in. I mean, I don't think the fans can come away disappointed that they didn't give anything less than 100%. And then, Anderson going down really hurt us. Kearney looked 60, 70%, looked like his neck had gone. We had so many casualties. The goal that we let in was poor. And Trossard of all players, I can't stand him.
Can't stand him. I'm with you.
Yeah, I can't stand him, no. And what a way to lose a game. Tony's absolutely right in terms of the marking from the set pieces like that. It's not good enough. They should have rectified it. I know that you got Castagna for Tete, obviously no Robbo. By that time, Anderson was gone. Bassi wasn't on the field, but that wasn't good enough. I keep thinking of Shahid Khan because, we as fans were clamouring for more signings in the close season because we were worried in case we got an injury and illness bug, and now it's hit us and hit us hard.
Very
plus
hard.
you have, and the international break, look, we lost Chukwueze, which was, it's like, oh my, here we go. Anderson has got a hammy problem, which could mean he's out for weeks. And you got to look at the ownership and say, well, Marco's been wanting reinforcements for a while. And in a game where I think we could have got something, we just didn't have enough strength in depth. They can just call whoever the hell they want off the bench. Tony's right, we lost 3 in the spin. I think that we're going to have Chukwueze back next weekend and possibly Tete. And I expect us to get something up in the northeast. But the manner of the goal that we conceded yesterday was definitely disappointing.
Okay, I'm going to actually share this comment now. Like I said, we'll spend more time in the second half of the show really breaking down Arsenal. But I want to go right back to you, Giannis. I want to get your thoughts on what Ben shared here. He says, why take off Cuenca, who was playing okay for Bassi when losing 1-0? Are we protecting, a 1-0 defeat? It's an interesting way to put that. What do you make of that?
I'll tell you straight off, I was pissed off when Cuenca was subbed.
I was too.
I thought he was excellent, and I think he's been excellent every performance I've seen him. The unfortunate thing for him is he's a left-sided central defender. So you got Bassi there, but I thought he was very, very good yesterday. Very calm, and I've got to take my hat off to Diop as well.
Well.
I mean, we got a second string out there, and they're going in and they're putting in a shift, and they're working hard, and no complaints there. I don't know why he took Cuenca off. If Bassi isn't fit enough to start. If Cuenca's doing the job, just keep him out there. Keep him out there. Yeah. Did a bit of a head scratcher, that one.
Totally agree. Very good question, Ben, for asking that. Okay, Mr. Cohen, what are your opening thoughts on this 1-0 loss?
I think, I don't think either team deserved to win. I think that was a 0-0.
I agree with that.
And I think to make that statement that should have been a 0-0 reflects way more negatively on Arsenal than it does us, considering the firepower Arsenal had.
Yeah, I don't think they played well, Max.
I mean, I thought Saka, he had the dive, which if Kevin had done that, not Kevin, if Josh King had done that, Josh King would have been red carded. He would have been carried out of the stadium by the refs. But when Saka does it, it's one thing. And I think Gyökeres, he had like 2 shots the entire match. I mean, Leno really didn't have much to do at all. And you look at the center backs who played. I thought Cuenca was good. I agree, but yeah, you're right. Diop came on. What did Diop do? Not a criticism, but Arsenal I thought were really underwhelming. We had a 10-minute spell in the first half. We were good, and that was it. So this game should have been 0-0.
Yep.
And they got lucky off a set piece, but that's what Arsenal do, and that's why they're title contenders. They're very good at set pieces. And,
right.
And I said I agree with Tony. Zonal marking is a joke, but also we switch off for 1 second. I don't even think the marking was that much of an issue because Gabriel can jump higher than anyone, as Silva said. So it's very hard to defend against that.
But Trossard is like 5 feet nothing.
Well, just either you put someone on a post or Raul Jimenez reacts better. But so it's crazy. It was a 100+ minute match considering the stoppage time, 106 minutes of football. It comes down to one mental lapse at the back post. So it's funny. Football's a funny game. We can analyze it all we want, but I don't think either team deserve 3 points at all.
Okay, excellent. Great takes by all of you. I'll just quickly share mine, and then we'll get to the Cottage talking points where I really want to talk about the situation with Marco Silva and what we think Shahid Khan should do. So you guys bring up some very good points. When I watched the match and I watched it again for a second time, the one thing that keeps coming out to me, I thought, and again, I've seen all the comments of how well Fulham played, it's going down that road of moral victory. I don't particularly enjoy moral victories. I get them at times, why people go that route. And that's what it feels like, a mistake. As Tony said, Tony's 100% right. Why do we keep doing something that just doesn't work? And for such a small player to score a goal is just crazy. For them to lose that way, but again, good teams find ways to win. Arsenal's a good team. They didn't play well, but they found a way to win. We couldn't find a way to win. Injuries are a part of it, but I will also put some of this on tactics and no tactical changes, as we always see, and decisions that the manager made in the second half, I think were just typical. So for me, after looking back at it, I feel like this is a movie I've seen many times. Again, I'll say how good the players played, and we end up with a loss. That's just the way I don't feel great about it, guys. I just don't. I feel that the players did everything that they could, and I will say that, but I don't feel good about. I don't think this is a moral victory at all. I think it opens up more questions for me with decisions by the manager or lack of decisions by the manager. So that's where I'm going on that. Okay, let's get into the meat of the show with Cottage Talk talking points. And what really has set this off, and just so Giannis and Max, know that Tony and I have talked about a lot to do with Marco Silva's contract recently and his situation, and also on Shahid Khan on the last show. So I think this kind of just extends what we've already been talking about, but really what has bring this to light to talk about it today is what happened yesterday to Ange Postecoglou. So he gets sacked, and now it's everywhere. Reportedly, Marco Silva is the number one target for the Nottingham Forest position. So then it becomes, okay, what is going to come about of this? Would Marco take the job? What should Shahid Khan do here? Could this be a chance, guys, for them to negotiate a new contract for Marco? Do you want Marco to be the long-term manager of Fulham Football Club? It opens up a bunch of things going on. So I'm going to put each one of you, including myself, in the shoes of Shahid Khan. That's how we're going to do this. So I'm going to go to Mr. Gold first. I'm going to put you in the shoes of the chairman, Shahid Khan. With everything going on, I'm asking you, what would you do if you were him with the Marco Silva situation currently?
Well, I'd be sitting down with him definitely within the next 4 or 5 days and be having a very serious conversation about, everything. The fact that Silva wasn't particularly backed in the summer market, for me was a red flag straight away. The fact that Marco Silva has a release clause in his contract for 13 million pounds tells me something else as well.
Yeah.
Look, ultimately, Russ, for me, football, as there's no loyalty in football anymore. Marco Silva, at the end of the day, has got a decision to make in his head. And, ultimately, historically, Nottingham Forest are a bigger side than Fulham. That's a fact. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on which way you want to look at it, Silva does have a history with Marinakis at Olympiakos. So they do know each other well. They have had a history of working together. And it's whether or not Marco Silva believes that going to Nottingham Forest is a step up for him, and whether he's going to go in there with potentially, arguably a better squad. They've got European football. Is that a stepping stone that Marco Silva can go into and build on and grow? Where is he going? My question would be, Russ, is where is he going with Fulham at the moment? Because he's been here 5 years, and I feel like at the moment we have stagnated. We've hit a point where actually we're now seeing the same decisions, the same football, the same substitutions, the same formations, the same tactics, and nothing's really changed. And as I said to you, we've got £70 million worth of talent sitting on the bench every week. And, at some point, that has to change. We have to start seeing Kevin being given a run of games. We have to see Smith Rowe, integrated into this football team at some point, because otherwise, what was the point in signing him? There's just a lot of things at the moment that just don't add up. And ultimately, would I be surprised if he signs for Forest and goes? No, I wouldn't, not at all, because he has a history of it, as we know, and maybe he's got to the point where he's bored. Maybe he's got to the point where actually he feels in his mind he's taken it as far as he can. But look, if they do pay the 30 million quid, it's on Marco Silva. I don't think Shahid Khan can do anything.
Okay,
That's
so
my take on it.
So if there is a release clause, which has been reported, and they match it, and Marco wants to go, Marco can go.
100%.
That is done, right? However, Shahid Khan would have an opportunity, I would think, to talk to him and say, hey, listen, this is what we're going to do for you, blah, blah, blah. Like I said, have the conversation. So that's something that I think you have to discuss, like you mentioned. But there are other topics that I'm glad that you brought to the table too. You have to look at his history from a Shahid Khan perspective. Where can he take you? So that's why I wanted to bring this up. It's not just give him the money, have him sign a new contract. You have to feel, is he the right manager to take Fulham into the future for years to come?
But Russ, just to add to that, he has been backed and he has been given money, because he was given 30 million to sign Smith Rowe, and he was given 40 million to sign Kevin. And as it stands, he hasn't managed to get a tune out of Smith Rowe, right? Not a tune. He's now putting an 18-year-old ahead of him because he feels that Josh King has got more to add or more to offer. And so actually the question is, is Marco Silva able to get what he needs to get out of these certain players? And that's a question mark at the moment, because at the moment, the answer is no. I haven't seen anything from Kevin to suggest that he's a £40 million winger, unless anybody else has seen something that I haven't.
Okay, very good. Over to you, Max. I'll go to you and then I'll go to Giannis. I'm going to put you in the shoes of Shahid Khan. What would you do? And if you want to comment on what Tony said, feel free to as well.
I don't know. I mean, listen, I think Tony, I think you're Kevin, you're right. We haven't seen anything out of him to suggest he's worth the price tag, but he hasn't started a match of football in the league. I think Marco Silva is
whose fault is that? Whose fault is that?
Who do you start him in front of right now?
I would start him at left wing, and I would mix and match him. We'll be around.
Harry Wilson,
Harry
Wilson was our best attacking player against Arsenal. He he had the most shots, the most dangerous opportunities of anyone. I mean, look, back to Silva. I think you're right. I think Tony had the best comment when he said, I wouldn't be surprised if he left, because number one, this is what Marco Silva does in his career. And I think we look at Marco Silva, he's been approached by clubs in the past, and he's turned them down because I think he's thought it's not the right time to move. It's not the right club to move to. Forest, despite all the craziness, he clearly, as Tony mentioned, right, he managed under Marinakis at Olympiacos, and maybe he sees something that we don't. So maybe there's some connection there. But I think this is actually on paper is a better move than him going to an Arsenal or United or Liverpool, a truly top club with top pressure. Like, we're here, and Forest is a step up that's manageable. That isn't quite a top 4 club, a Champions League club. And then they're in the Europa League. It's a good squad. There's ingredients there for him to succeed theoretically. So I can see him doing it.
But the chairman is a big negative for me. I'm talking about of Nottingham Forest, because I'm telling you, that guy, I wouldn't want to work for him.
I mean, no, he's a total loose cannon. I mean, everyone's seen that. I mean, we've seen the Gibbs-White situation. Obviously, we've seen what he did to Nuno. From the outside, as a non-Forest supporter, Nuno just delivered them the best season in their recent history.
Exactly.
That
and
no
they
one
get rid
saw
of him?
coming after surviving.
How insane is that?
Yeah, and then he just sacks him. And then I read it was because they brought in a director of football who didn't agree with. So honestly, if I'm Marco and I don't like Tony Khan meddling, I'm not sure I'm going to like whoever they have at Forest meddling in my business as manager.
Right.
But I think the Marco hate or the Marco criticism is, I think it goes too far with you guys. I understand the need to be critical, and I'm not happy with the way the club is going. I agree with Tony. There's stagnation, no doubt. No doubt Fulham Football Club right now lost 3 in a row. we're way closer to the relegation zone than we are to the goals we want to be at.
That's right.
And it's mid-October. It's not just the start of the season anymore. We're fully into the season, a third of the way in almost. Yeah, it's not good enough right now. But we have to be honest. Marco Silva has done so much for this club, and I think when I think of the one thing about Silva at Fulham is that he's gotten the best out of players who looked average or below average under other managers. And I think Tony made a good point. One player who he's not gotten the best of at all, not even close, is Smith Rowe.
Yes.
But look at Josh King. Look what he's done to Josh King, a player who I didn't think was ready for the limelight this season and has been one of our brightest sparks. Look what he's done to the back four with people like Bassey and Anderson, who's brought them in out from the cold. Players who, again, I think people had written off, and he's gotten the best out of them. He doesn't have the tools. Yes, he's gotten wingers, but I think the center of midfield is consistently an issue.
Okay.
And we don't have firepower. If we're having to start Kearney in a match like yesterday, you can't blame Silva for that. We don't have a proper box-to-box midfielder, and we've been saying that a long time.
Right.
And I don't think that's Marco Silva's fault.
That.
That's the biggest issue with Fulham right now is center midfield.
Okay. But you're paying this man a lot of money, okay? It's his job to get the best out of this team, the most out of this team with what he has to work with. We can agree with that. Right, Max?
Yes.
So my issue with him, not that he isn't a good manager, it's like having a coach and a tennis coach. I use that as an example. That can only take you so far. You have to get a better tennis coach, right, to take you to the next level. I think we're at that point. I think we're at that point because he is so stubborn. He's as stubborn, Max, as Slavica Jokanovic was. Slavica could only take us so far because he was unwilling.
Don't even mention those two managers in the same sentence. And I love Slavica for what he did for us in the championship. But Marco Silva is 10 times the manager Slavica Jokanovic.
I'm talking about stubbornness. That's the comparison. The stubbornness.
Listen, I'm an ambitious supporter of Fulham, but I'm also realistic. We couldn't stay in the Premier League for our life for a period of 5 years. We were a laughingstock. We were a yo-yo club. We were a joke. We saw some of the worst Premier League performances in recent memory. I mean, we need to think back. It wasn't that long ago Claudio Ranieri was putting out a team every week. It wasn't that long ago Slavica Jokanovic was getting battered by Huddersfield Town away.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago. I don't want to mention this guy's name, but Scott Parker was our manager.
Yep.
And we scored 9 goals at home the entire season. I mean, things were really awful. And I think Fulham fans have forgotten that. And the man who changed that was Marco Silva.
Not only
did he make us survive.
I give him that credit.
We put in some of our best. People forget last year we won away at Chelsea. We beat the champions Liverpool at home. I mean, this is not a guy who's just barely scraping by. It's been a poor start to the season. No one's doubting that.
Okay.
But this is a team that can be turned around. I don't think Marco Silva is as stubborn as you lay him out to be. I just think that look at the team yesterday. We don't have Robinson. We don't have Tete. We're starting Cuenca, who's great, but not a first choice. We're starting Tom Kearney. Rodrigo Muniz he's playing with his hands tied behind his back. The squad's kind of a joke right now.
Right, but Max, and I understand that. I give you credit for bringing all that up, but Marco refuses to change the formation, refuses to change how he plays when things aren't going right, and he gets found out late in matches. You're talking about the Chelsea match? How about the one at home where he refused to change it after Maresca changed it at halftime, and we ended up losing that match? So he is a slave to his system. It's his system. That's the only way you do it, like for like substitutions, and that's what you got. That's my issue with him.
But it's a system which, when you compare to other teams, when I think of a system manager, when I think of what you just described, I think of Amorim, right?
He's a little bit like that. He's a little bit like that.
What we have at Fulham is way more pragmatic, and we might not always like it, but it's gotten us results. It's not like a system. If the system isn't working, I understand, but I wouldn't call what this right now is a system. You really think what's happening right now is a system issue at Fulham?
No, I think it's the stubbornness of Marco Silva, not willing to take on a young Swedish striker, not willing to play Smith Rowe and Josh King together, not willing to think outside the box because he's safe Silva. He plays it safe.
Russ, the two things you just mentioned, I think we have to trust our manager in this. I think this 18-year-old Swedish striker from Bayern is like terrible in training. Is just so far off the pace because
we don't know.
We have to trust the manager here. The kid's 18. The kid's barely played first team football.
Okay.
What I think, first of all, I have faith in Marco on this. I think what he's seeing in training is Asari's weak, or he can't finish, or he's not up to the pace in England. There's a reason we're not seeing this player.
Okay.
And there's a reason that Bayern was willing to let him go on loan to Fulham Football Club. All right.
I gotta get Giannis involved soon.
Sure.
No, I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying this.
One last thing.
Carry on.
Josh King and Smith Rowe on the same team. You're asking for a midfield to be torn apart like shreds in the Premier League. Those are
disagree.
2 defensive passengers.
I
That's
disagree.
not a good idea.
I disagree.
The one thing I would say, what Silva should do, I want to hear everyone's thoughts on this. Last thing, Silva should move Iwobi in the middle and then opens up to Kevin. I think that's the most accurate critique of Silva.
I'm not against the Iwobi move.
Iwobi on the wing is slow, and it's not what the modern Premier League desires. Put Kevin out there and put Iwobi central midfield.
See, I'm not against bringing Iwobi, and I'm totally with you on that. But I also would like to see at some point playing those 2 midfielders together along with Berger holding. I think it would work. And I think, believe it or not, I think Josh King gives you more solidity defensively because of his work rate. So I actually think it would work. I think if you had Smith Rowe as your 10 and King as your 8, I actually think you could pull it off. That's what I think. We agree to disagree.
Yeah, but Emil Smith Rowe has not deserved a starting spot in this team, not since he set foot at Craven Cottage. He's a bench impact player. That's what I feel strongly about.
I'm with this. We should have a pay-per-view. I'm definitely with that. Okay, Giannis. I'm sorry to keep you waiting here.
I'm having brilliant debate. This is the problem we've got right now. Yep. We've had 24 hours since the Postecoglou sacking. Shahid Khan's in London.
Right.
So now he's looking at this going, oh, bollocks. And of course, now the rumor mill goes. So he's had 24 hours to figure out, okay, what's out there if they meet that £7 million release clause? Now, when I look at what's out there, who do we have? Well, Potter's going to Sweden, probably. We've got Sean Dyche. No, I don't think so. Mancini is out there. Would he come to a Fulham? Not so sure. So the decision he has to make now is if the release clause is activated, and I've got a feeling it will be, does Shahid think that Marco is the guy that can take us forward, or does he think there's somebody better out there? And I'm not so sure right now.
Okay.
So for that reason, I think what Khan will do is, and I don't think it's 4 or 5 days. I think the way Marinakis works is going to be bang, 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 bang. So it's going to have to be in the next 24 to 48 hours, I think, are going to be critical. I wouldn't be surprised if he has talks over the next day or two with Tony Khan, if that's the, with Marco, if that's the way he's going to go. And I think he's probably had to already identify who his next manager is going to be in the event that the clause is released. And then Marco says, I've had a great 4 years here, but I want to change. So this is critical. If I were Shahid now, I would look to sign the extension because I look at what happened. I look at what happened with Everton. Yep. I'm going to use David Moyes here, of all people. But I look at the stability he brought to Everton. I look at the relative stability he brought to West Ham. He bought them a European trophy. And then as soon as he was fired, West Ham have been in the toilet. Now they've got Nuno. But that's what stability can bring. Yes, does Silva have faults? Yes. Are there inconsistencies in the squad? Yes. We hugely missed Sasha Lukic yesterday. I mean, that was massive. I saw Tom in there, and he's going to give him everything, but no. So that's where he's at right now. My gut feeling is that Shahid will look to extend Marco. I think he'll throw money at him, and then it's just going to be, and then it's going to be down to Marco. And if Marco leaves, he leaves with the best of my wishes because he's done a magnificent job here. And then let's see who comes in.
This is true, and I agree with that, Giannis. I see what you're saying, and I just look at it this way. Tony, back to you, and then we'll move on a little bit from this. Is that Giannis brings up a good point. Shahid Khan has to bring in someone. If say he is analyzing this, and this is he wants it to be his decision. I'm talking about Shahid's decision to bring in someone. It would have to be someone better than Silva, right? He would have to identify someone that he believes is better. If he cannot find that person, then I would do what Giannis said, and I would try to convince him to stay by offering him more money. But I think it comes down to right now preparation, what I'm looking at. If I'm Shahid Khan, I should already have a plan of someone else in mind. And if I've made up the decision based on the future, and I think I can get a better person and then I do it. But if I can't, I try to convince him to stay. And then if he leaves, then we have to go to plan B or C, probably for a lesser manager. But I think what it comes down to for me is, does he believe, like he says, is I think he's in our long-term plans? Then he would have to go all out to keep him here. That's the way I look at it. What do you make of that?
Yeah, look, I think it's all conjecture at the end of the day. I think it's 50-50 at the moment. As it stands, Marco Silva stays at Fulham unless something happens, as Yanis says, over the next 48 hours. If I'm having a plan B and I'm looking at someone to bring in, I know who my target would be and I know who I would be putting pressure on and be going after without any shadow of a doubt.
Say it. Say it.
Well, there's only one manager, Russ, and it's Andoni Areola at Bournemouth. He's the only person that can replace Marco Silva and improve us.
No, I got another one, but you go ahead.
He's an outstanding manager. He's done an incredible job at Bournemouth. Fulham are a bigger club than Bournemouth, simple as that. And, for him, it would be 100% a step up. His football brain is fantastic. He sees the game tactically very well. And he's got an eye for a player. He signed some absolutely fantastic players, and Bournemouth are punching well above their weight. So, if it's the merry-go-round that we know it always becomes, then as far as I'm concerned, he's the guy that I'm going after to replace him. And he's the only one that I think, in my mind, that would be fit for the job.
Okay, I told you who I would, but it would have to be a situation where a certain club fell off really badly, and it was to the point when they were forced to make a move, and that would be Emery. But like most of you guys are probably going to say, there's no way Emery leaves Aston Villa. If you've seen the chatter around Emery lately, I don't know, because they're under a lot of pressure. I know they're right now with a 1-1 draw against Tottenham, but they are not at their level, and their supporters are, I wouldn't say they're turning on Emery, but they're questioning it. That would be my pick. But like you said, it would have to be a situation where he gets sacked. So they're not going to be able to get him. I listen, I would love either one of those managers, but I think, you have to dream. You have to dream. Who would you bring in? Anyways, Max, anything else you want to add before we move on?
I would love Areola, but I don't see him leaving Bournemouth. So, but he would be a great manager, 100%. But apart from that, I think the other options available are just the ones who are without a club. Nothing stands out. So it would definitely be a risk at this stage. But, I mean, maybe this is already going to happen anyway at the end of the season, right? Maybe Marco Silva was already going to leave because he wouldn't sign a new contract and he didn't feel backed. So maybe this could be a blessing in disguise or forced to deal with this sooner rather than later.
Well, that's what I'm kind of going on this, Max, because this is going to come to a head, right?
Yeah. I mean, maybe, although I was trying not to think about it, maybe realistically Marco would have been gone anyway in August, right?
Okay.
Because if you don't extend your contract by this stage, and
that's the whole thing.
He clearly was upset at the later stage of the transfer window, and maybe a manager doesn't speak like that and see his long-term future here. Although I saw Shahid Khan was quoted as saying his long-term future.
Yep.
He saw Marco Silva as a long-term manager.
Okay.
I mean, but that's just comments to the press. He's not backed it up with words, though, Shahid Khan. If you really felt that way, there would have been no need for the manager to go to the press multiple times at the end of a transfer window and publicly criticize the leadership. So I think we've honestly moved on maybe too quickly from that, because Marco Silva is someone who chooses his words carefully. And the fact that he was that aggrieved and he went public with his frustrations showed maybe how much things had degraded.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Okay. So as someone just brought up to me, thank you, Raymond, Aston Villa just took the lead. So that probably blows up my plan, but that's okay. Here's one that, I have two comments on this. I don't see this happening. Chris, this would blow your head right off. Klopp. I'm like, yeah, that's not going to happen. But, we can, like I said, we can dream. But Giannis, I'll give you final word on this whole thing. I think it's something that we should be talking about, not be afraid to talk about. The reason why I really want to talk about, Max actually brought it up in some things he was saying. At this point, he should have a new deal. It it shouldn't have gotten to this point. So since it has, it leads you to believe that it's only going to go one way, and that's him leaving. So shouldn't you, at this point, as Shahid Khan, be thinking about your next move?
You'd think so. And especially with, as I said, the last 24 hours.
Yeah.
His hand is forced, and now the rumour mill is flying all over the place. And the next day or two is going to be critical. Personally, I hope Marco stays.
Okay.
But the one name that's being bandied about, it might be a huge risk, but he's one of the brightest young managers in Europe right now. Is Liam Rosinha. I
know. I said that. I've said that. Yes.
Fulham boy will know the fans, knows the club. He I think would jump at the chance to come here. Is he too much of a risk? Maybe, but I remember when we gave Cookie his chance way back when, and he did well for us, and I think he'd certainly have the backing of the fans. But you know, the problem, the reason I'm a little bit worried about the Silva rumours is because, of course, he played under Marinakis, as Tony said, up down at Olympiacos. He's won a league title in Greece, and they are in Europe, and they do have a better squad, and they are a bit bigger club. And the temptation may, even despite the Nuno and Postecoglou dismissals, it might be too great, too tempting a carrot for him not to accept. So we're going to be on. I think the fans will be on tenterhooks the next few days to see how it's going to play out.
Okay, very good. All right. Coming up next, we're going to break down the match. We'll start with the starting 11, go through both halves, and we'll end with man of the match. Okay, guys, let's move on from talking about the situation from Marco and what we would do if we were Shahid Khan. Let's now go back and let's talk about this 1-0 loss. And Tony, the way I want to start off with you is to just get your opening thoughts of what you thought when you saw the starting 11.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit of a surprise, but obviously stuff happened over the international break where Marco Silva felt certain players weren't fit enough or ready, or maybe he looked at it and just felt, actually, because of who we're playing against, Arsenal, a very good footballing side, want to get the ball down. Actually, we need a few more footballers on the pitch that are more comfortable with the ball and playing out from the back, which would explain why maybe Cuenca started and Bassi didn't. I think Bassi played, quite a lot of minutes over the international break and maybe just came back and wasn't feeling right. So yeah, it was good, obviously, to see Raul back in the side. That was a positive because at least we had an out. But other than that, I think it was pretty much as strong as he possibly could have gone, given the last couple of games. I was probably expecting Kevin to start. Especially after the Bournemouth and Villa game. I just think Iwobi and Wilson just haven't been, productive enough in those areas for me. And it's been proven. So, as I said to you, how many teams do you know, Russell, that break their record signing fee and then stick the player on the bench and don't play him? Kevin needs a run of games. He needs to play 4 or 5 games. We need to see what this kid's about. We need to see whether he's got it, whether he's, and if they're as good as he says he is, surely he's got to be better starting games than coming off the bench 60 minutes in games that we're chasing. And what's he expected to do? We need to see him play. And Harry Wilson or Iwobi, one of them has to give way. It's as simple as that, because you can't keep on having a player like that sitting on our bench, coming on for 25 minutes, 30 minutes. It's not fair. He needs 5, 6, 7, 8 games. Let's see what he's got. But, that aside, that also applies to Smith Rowe. Yeah. How long is Smith Rowe going to be happy sitting on the bench for the rest of the season? I can't see it. Silva it's his job, Russell, as a coach and as a manager. Marco Silva has to find a way to get our best footballers into this team. And that means he's going to have to come away from this psychotic thing he's got in his head about playing 2 holding midfield players, right? And that means he has to loosen up the midfield, and we have to become a little bit more free-flowing. We have to be a little bit braver. He has to be a bit braver to go and win football matches rather than being worried about losing football matches. And you know what? That is difficult, because you've got to get the balance right, because, at the moment, what he's doing isn't working because we've lost 3 games on the bounce. And although it was a 1-0 defeat and a lot of people are expecting it to be a lot heavier, don't forget, Russell, you cannot forget the Bournemouth performance and the Aston Villa performance. They were woeful. They were absolutely woeful. And so, I don't think, at the moment, I don't think he really knows what his best front six is. I think he's got a real conundrum, and I think he's really struggling with, how does he fit these players in? We didn't register a shot on goal yesterday. For however well people think we played, we didn't register a shot on their goal. Not one shot, nothing. And that has to tell you something. So, it's not all doom and gloom, but something has to change. Otherwise, how, number one, where are the goals coming from? And number two, how are we going to start winning football matches?
Okay, very good. I just want to share this comment from Chris, and then I'm going to go to Max and get his thoughts on this starting line, because you and I have talked a lot about this. Does Marco have trust in ESR or Kevin? Is that why he's not starting either? That's really the question, right, Tony?
He's scared to lose football matches, Russ. And you're talking about two players, okay? Kevin at the moment, Max is absolutely right. We can't judge him at the moment,
right?
Because he needs games. So we can only judge him once he gets those games in. But at some point, Marco Silva has to make a decision to play him and give him a run of games. ERS, I've said it before. Look, he didn't do himself any favours last season. I don't think he was fit enough. I don't think he was sharp enough. But again, if he sorted himself out over the summer, which apparently, he has done, and he did do, he's a player. He's a confidence player. He needs to be playing. And as far as I'm concerned, he's got too much ability to be wasted sitting on our bench and not being able to perform and not being able to go out there and express himself as a footballer. And for him as well, it's killing him by not playing. Because again, it doesn't suit him coming on for 25 minutes, half an hour. He can't get any flow. He can't get any rhythm. He's a player that needs to be playing. We paid £30 million for him, Russ. He needs to be playing in this football team. He has to be playing.
Okay, excellent. All right. Max, over to you for the starting 11, and feel free to chime in on this discussion about ESR and Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's time for a change with Smith Rowe, but I do think he's played better this season in glimpses. But I think, frankly, the role, like the way he played against United off the bench, making the difference, is what I'd rather see him do than start from the off. So it's hard to evaluate that right now. But I think the overall point I have about the starting 11 is that this was maybe the weakest 11 we could have put out. Well, we had a striker at least, so Bournemouth is probably worse. But again, no Lukic. As Giannis mentioned, I mean, he's the glue of this team. He's perhaps one of the best players we've had all season. He makes everything tick. Without him, Kearney just wasn't the same. Castagna is just so bad one-on-one against really good players. And we saw that against Bournemouth with Semenyo, and we saw that at times. The one that really sticks out is when there was the counterattack that Arsenal had, and Castagna just comes sliding, gets nowhere near the ball, and we get fortunate they don't score off that. But, I mean, just if it's one-on-one on pace, and I remember what Anthony Gordon did to him at St. James's Park last season.
I remember that.
We really shouldn't be playing him so much, but we have to because injuries. And again, the Anthony Robinson situation is so baffling to me because it's not talked about enough. I don't know when he got injured or what. It's his knee. Why is he going to the United States of America on international duty? Who signed off on that? He hasn't been fit for months.
Apparently, Max.
What happened?
Yeah, apparently, again, this is what I've been hearing. There's been talk, and I've heard this on the radio over here, and that it might have something to do with part of his deal with the U.S. men's national team, that he has to make a certain amount of appearances over here. So that might be a factor, and he might have to come over here just to be here. So that might be what's going on here, which doesn't make
that's silly. That's so
I know because
he went to what, Australia friendly and the Ecuador friendly, didn't play a minute.
No,
meaningless games. He's already if Anthony Robinson's fit, he's in Pochettino's starting 11. There's no doubt.
Right. I think this is almost like a corporate kind of thing, even though it's not a corporate.
I hear you. Listen, I love Sessegnon. He's one of my favorite ever Fulham players. Anthony Robinson's a better left back than him. That's not really up for debate. So,
but Sessegnon, I thought, played very well in this match.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not blaming Sessegnon for anything he did, but we don't have Anthony Robinson in your team. Basically, gives you an extra boost as an auxiliary left winger.
Well,
It gives you a
attacker-wise.
counterattacking threat.
Yep.
And we're just missing that. And he was our best player last season in many matches.
No, I
And
agree.
many people were saying he's the best left back in the Premier League, and we've missed out on him all season. He hasn't started a single match, right?
No, he is
I
not.
can remember. So I mean, that's a huge reason I think why we're struggling, because he makes the winger on that left side look better because he takes away
This is
defensive
true.
attention. So, and no Muniz again. Does anyone have a timeline for Rodrigo Muniz? Does anyone know when he's coming back?
After the
haven't
November break, I heard.
Yeah, that's
so
what
I mean, that's
what Marco said.
it's just soul-crushing injuries for Fulham right now, and that's the storyline I'm taking away. Is yes, Marco Silva could be more aggressive, but we're missing our best players. We're missing our best striker, Muniz, our best left back, our best right back, our best central midfielder, and that's 4 top players who aren't in our starting 11. That would hurt any Premier League team.
Yeah. I hear you, Max. I hear you. Good points there. Giannis, starting 11.
I'm looking at it now. I mean, it's the first thing that stands out, obviously not having Lukic, Bassi being on the bench, but Cuenca did well. It's about as good an 11 as we were going to put out, unfortunately. The ESR thing, I think Silva just doesn't fancy him. I think that's what it is. He's not buying it, whether he's not working hard enough. And that's the other thing, we don't get to see what he's doing in training. But he's we spent a lot, as Tony said, we spent a lot of money on him, and we've not got the value, nowhere near the value yet. And Kevin, I know, needs a little bit of time, but we really have to open the shackles. We really have to let players loose. Smith Rowe can open up a game quickly. Kevin, we know, is a very good one player, which is great. But Silva could turn around and say, "Well, this is what you did to me in the transfer window.
Yeah.
If you give me a few more players." The strength and depth that I'm not it's looking at Arsenal, but you compare that to what we got on the bench. And I look at the bench from yesterday, Bassi, okay, wasn't 100. Obviously, Diop, the Swede, might as well not even mention him. The goalie, Lecomte, Harrison Reed, who's not got a minute, Kevin, Smith Rowe, Tete, who was never going to come off, and everybody's favourite, Adama Traore, who yet again comes off the bench. And we're not good enough in terms of strength and depth, and it's a while since we've struggled with this sort of injuries. And that's why I'd like to see, I want to see Smith Rowe get a run. I really do. Let's see what this boy can do. Let's give Kevin a run as well. Put Iwobi in the middle. Let's open it up a little bit. Let's expand the game a little bit and see what we can do. Because Tony does have a point. It's almost a little bit Scott Parkerish. We're looking we're scared to attack. We're scared to win. We're scared to open it up. And that's frustrating. That's something else that Shahid's going to have to look at. Forget where we are on the table. I think I still think it's early, but how are we playing? Is this something that's going to take us forward? And he may turn around and say, well, maybe Marco's taken us as far as he can, and I need somebody to take us to the next step.
Well, that's kind of why I wanted to bring this to the table too, Giannis. Has he taken us as far as we can? People keep asking me that question. So that's why I wanted to pose that with our discussion today, because I don't know. All I know is that's why I was bringing up the tennis thing that I actually had to deal with. Can a tennis coach only take you a certain level? Then you got to go to the next level. I don't know but that's something that I think Shahid Khan needs to consider. Can Marco take us to Europe? Because that to me he already said it in his interview. The goal has to be challenging for Europe. I would say getting into Europe, not just challenging for it, getting into Europe. Do you have the manager that can get you into Europe? That's what he has to decide for himself. That's why part of the reason why I wanted to bring this discussion.
But Giannis, also to add to your point, sorry, Russ, to add to your point, Giannis,
go ahead,
as well. Where are the goals coming from in midfield at the moment?
Oh, you just answered it.
Lukic, Berger, Josh King haven't got a goal between them. And those two had one goal between them all of last season. We've got no creativity and no goals from midfield whatsoever. None at all. And that is a huge problem. Huge problem. And it hasn't been addressed.
Spot on. That's 100% right.
There you go. Tony, you said it very well. All right. Good stuff. I'm glad that you chimed in there, my friend. All right. Let's quickly, I don't want to spend too much time talking about the match, and we'll end with man of the match, but let's just go around just in general terms. First half, I'll go to you first, Max. I'll just share my thoughts. listen, I think Fulham came out well. Arsenal definitely did not play to their ability throughout the match, but I think Fulham had a lot to do with that in the first half. I think that there were glimpses. And as I said to Tony when I talked to him yesterday, the issue I have throughout this match is at times Fulham looked dangerous, but it was a lot of huffing and puffing, no end product, no shots on target. First half the same way. They had some opportunities, no shots on target, Max.
Yeah, I mean, when you're not forcing David Raya, who we all know how off the line he can be, remember Wembley. Yeah, it's disappointing. But I do think there was that early spell when Harry Wilson had those 2 shots when we looked like we could trouble Arsenal, and then Arsenal just started possessing. But again, I mean, their possession was so simple for us. Like, unless it was Saka running at Sessegnon, I wasn't really worried. The only time I was worried the entire match was when they had a set piece, and that ended up being, sadly,
every time they
realized.
Had a set piece, I was nervous.
Yeah, and I mean, they scored this. I remember last 2 years ago when we beat them, when Bobby Decordova-Reid scored the winner. Right? Wow, what a throwback! Maybe we should get him back. He'd score some goals. Like that, they also score off a set piece. Like 3 minutes in, that's just Arsenal. That's what they do. That's what they do.
All right.
Yeah.
Chris had to share this and ruin my morning. Yes, Chris, I understand Fulham missed Mitro. They still haven't replaced Mitro. We could do 5 shows about missing Mitro. So, yes, I agree with you. Anything else you want to share, Max?
No. I mean, it wasn't a Premier League classic, that's for sure. The best part of the match for me was when Giannis and Tony, you guys did not hear this, I don't think, because we got the U.S. feed. But
the U.S. feed was terrible.
But when Peter Drury and Lee Dixon, I think it was, went on, nothing was happening in the match. They just talked about how nice Craven Cottage was for 2 minutes.
Oh my God, they kept doing that. It was making me crazy.
At least they didn't mention the swimming pool.
Yeah, exactly. Giannis, your thoughts on the first half?
Yeah, we did. We huffed and puffed. They had that goal that was disallowed. That was a lovely goal, by the way.
Yeah, it was.
Calafiore. But I thought we were in it. I thought our shape was very good, and I thought, I mean, what worried me was, I mean, Anderson went off, and I thought, oh God, and you look at the bench, Issa's who we've got. That was the only down pit, but it looked like, I thought we could sneak a point. We really restricted them in terms of movement and time on the ball. I thought we'd done a good job caging them up, but set pieces always worry me with them. And unfortunately, it's still frustrating that we conceded a goal like that. If it's a 35-yard screamer, you take it on the chin. But
this is what I said
off the kid's knee.
Tony,
I mean, really,
that's what I said to you. Yeah,
just frustrating that of all. No, just we shouldn't be conceding goals like
that. No. In fact, I'm glad that you brought that up, Giannis, because that's exactly what I said to Tony. I said, Tony, if Alexis McAllister was a goal like that with Liverpool, yes, Chris, I said Alexis McAllister, and he scored that yesterday, I would just put my arms up and say, good goal. You deserve to win the match. The goal we gave up was just poor. Over to you, Tony. Your thoughts on the first half before we then talk briefly about the second half.
Yeah, look, I think ultimately we were intent to soak up Arsenal's pressure. That's what Marco Silva did. Kept 11 men behind the ball, made it very difficult, which is what he does. The players on the pitch, they did their jobs, and that's all you can say. It wasn't, look, Arsenal had chances. Yes, they had the goal disallowed. The most ridiculous thing yesterday was that VAR decision around that penalty. I mean, if that doesn't tell people that VAR is a complete and utter joke, right? The amount of time it took for them to make that decision and the amount of time he stood there looking at it, it was clearly, you could see he's won the ball. Clearly see it. 5 seconds, you could see he's managed to get a toe and move on. Why has it taken 5, 6, 7 minutes? It's just madness to me. Yeah. Absolute madness what's going on. Absolutely crazy. But anyway, that aside, look, we tried to hit them on the counter attack. Harry Wilson, as you said, Max got through from Iwobi's cross and what have you. But look, ultimately, the frustrating and Giannis absolutely hit the nail on the head. To lose the game by that goal is very frustrating because, as Max said, that should have been a 0-0. Should have been a 0-0.
Absolutely.
And everyone would be saying, you know what, Fulham, great point, given the situation and the players and everything else.
The mood would have been completely different, Tony, right?
Marco Silva seriously has to come off after that pitch today, sit down with his analysis team and go, right, lads, set pieces, corners, defending. We need to change something because we are conceding too many goals in those situations. Something has to change, and he's got to address it. It's crazy not to. You can't continue to concede goals in your 6-yard box from corners. It's madness.
Yep.
Absolutely madness.
Totally agree. Okay, guys, briefly, let's now just talk about the second half. I think we've already basically talked about the goal and how poor the goal was. I guess the part of the second half I want to really focus on the three of you with, and then we'll go to man of the match and end the show, is my frustration, and maybe I'm wrong here, my frustration with the decisions with the substitutions. I like bringing on Smith Rowe. I like bringing on Kevin. I'm not against that. Giannis, I'm just still upset that Josh King did not stay on the pitch. I want to get your thoughts on his decisions with the substitutions in the second half.
Yeah, that's another head scratcher. What did Josh King do wrong?
Someone has to tell me what he did wrong.
I don't know. I can't find it. And if he's played all that time, then keep him on for the whole game. You never know. A little piece of magic he's going to create. He's an 18-year-old kid. I know he's only 18. Keep him on for the whole game. It was, to me, it was a substitution for substitution's sake.
Yeah.
Cosmetic. Okay. It wasn't going to make any difference.
And the one with Calvin Bassey was, again,
even
we
worse.
have a comment, like,
even
why?
Worse.
Why?
Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Because Quenger's had a great game. Just keep him on the field. Unless he had a tweak somewhere, or I didn't look like he was tiring out to me. So needless substitution, frankly, had no impact.
Okay.
So.
Very, very interesting. Tony, I want to get your thoughts on this. I didn't think about it at the time. Why wasn't Saka booked for dive if it wasn't a penalty from Ben Lawrence? Well, what do you make of that, Tony?
I'm not sure Saka dived. Look, I think it was just it was a challenge. Saka's gone down under. It's one of those. I'm not sure. He dived. It was just the referee saw it in very quick motion, and because of the angle that he was at, he didn't see Kevin get that little toe or foot to the ball. So it looked like, for his point of view, I can see why he gave the penalty. But once you slow it down and you see, and that's where VAR actually comes in and is very handy. Yep. You can actually see that the ball has, taken a completely different direction, and actually it wasn't a free kick. But, Saka has that in his locker, Russ. You don't know whether he dives or he does dive sometimes. That's just the way he is. But it's effective, and he manages to get a lot of decisions out of it.
Right. No, good stuff there. All right, Tony, over to you. Just your thoughts on the substitutions. That's really what I want to focus on.
Yeah, well, I think the Anderson one, unfortunately, was a forced one. I can see why he brought Diop on and not Bassey, because he wanted to keep the balance right with the left foot, right foot combination. So I can understand why he did that. The only reason, Giannis, I think he won't keep, and Josh King gets substituted every game, by the way. It's not just yesterday. He brings him off all the time. Is that he's got this thing about playing Emil Smith Rowe and Josh King together. At the moment, I just think it's the mental block, and he doesn't want them on the pitch at the same time. And for me, that's completely alien, because actually you want your best technical footballers on the pitch that can make a difference. And I genuinely believe that Smith Rowe will score 10 goals a season in this football team if he's given the opportunity and he's played in the right positions. So to bring Kevin on for Josh King, I would have got Harry Wilson off. He'd had a good stint. He had a good run at 63 minutes, and he hadn't done anything. And the same with Iwobi. So get Traore in, get Kevin on, and just mix it up a little bit. Keep Josh King on, like Giannis said, because what Josh King can do is he's got that brilliance about him that he can make something happen out of nothing.
Absolutely.
Right? And he's shown that. He's shown it in pretty much every game that he's played. The Bassey one is a complete conundrum to me. I've got no idea what that was about. I can only assume that Cuenca was struggling with something. That's the only, he might have had a little niggle, and he was like, you know what, I don't want to risk it, get me off, because that made absolutely no sense at all. But the one that I was really, anyway, Harrison Reed doesn't look like, I think his Fulham career is coming to an end, because he's just not getting a look in.
See, I thought he would have been useful against Arsenal.
Yeah, I agree. I think he to start with, definitely, but actually it proved that, ultimately it was all right, because we were okay. We got done by a set piece. We didn't get opened up. We weren't. They didn't really cause us any major problems. So, ultimately that wasn't the issue. But yeah, the subs, and again, bring on Traore on the 82nd minute. It just, what's he meant to do in 10 minutes of football?
Yeah.
As it turns out, 19, because there was 9 minutes added time. But you're asking him to come on and make an impact. It's very, very difficult, Russ. Very difficult.
No, I totally agree. Okay. Max, your thoughts on the substitutions in the second half, and then we'll end with man of the match.
Yeah, I think the Bassey one maybe was just to give us more attacking intent. Maybe it was just because Bassey's better at striding out of the back with the ball. That's the most charitable way that I think to analyze what Silla did, was because sometimes Bassey does go on these runs where he takes the entire defense by storm and either puts in a cross or gets in a really advanced position in a way Cuenca doesn't do. So maybe that's an attacking way to view it. But apart from that, I agree with everything you guys said. That this has never been Silva's strong suit, subs. Although it is ironic to say we're always a team that has the most goals scored by substitutes. Yeah, we're quite critical of Silva. So it's a bit of a, we can see two sides to every story here. So.
Okay. Excellent stuff. All right, guys, let's end the show with man of the match. We'll go around the room. Giannis, man of the match.
Tricky one. I thought Leno had a good game, made some timely saves. But for me, I thought Cuenca was magnificent. Just, as I said, that's why I was pissed off when he was subbed. Yeah, you're right, Max, maybe a bit of attacking intent. Cuenca's not put a foot wrong for us every time he's played. And I thought he marshalled the back four very, very well. I was excellent. For me, it's Cuenca.
Okay. Max, who was it for you?
It's hard to pick one, but I think Cuenca, I'm going to go with the group here. I mean, he was very solid, and it gets us thinking, good piece of business. Maybe he should play more. Who knows? It's just tough. As you said, the formation means that he's in competition with Bassey, who's also a great defender.
Okay. How about you, Tony?
I agree with the lads. I think Cuenca was excellent, but actually I'm going to go with Raul. I thought Raul worked incredibly hard yesterday with very little reward. He ran the line very well, defended from the front. I think he put in a real effort. And as I said, I felt sorry for him yesterday because we just cannot get him the ball in areas where we play to his strengths. And, he must have come off that pitch really frustrated because he really did work hard yesterday. And I feel sorry for him at times. I really do, because we've got a centre forward there that can score goals. He's got such good ability, and we just do not give him any chances at all to be productive. And it must be incredibly frustrating playing in that team at times, really.
Okay. Tony, bonus topic for you, because you and I have talked about this. I know how you feel about this. This is from Alan. He says, if we continue to play one centre forward up front, either Jimenez or Muniz will always be outmarked by two central defenders. So no matter how good the supply is to your striker, he will always be outnumbered. Hence, no shots on goal. We need two center forwards. Tony, has been part of your argument when it's come to Silva. He never plays them together, or hardly ever does.
He won't, because he won't deviate from the two holding midfield players that are supposedly meant to protect our back four. But ultimately, that shows it doesn't work because of the goals that we're conceding. And you have to take one of those players out, and you have to be, and that's why there is an argument that you could play Smith Rowe as a false nine alongside, just behind Raul, or maybe Josh King there, and maybe play, Smith Rowe a little bit deeper to get him on the ball. But either way, yes, I think sometimes you've got to think outside the box and deviate away from how you normally are. But we all know that Marco Silva will not deviate from what he wants. This is how he sets up. This is how he wants to play. He's got a specific route, job for individuals and players within this group. And it's clear to see the players, as Giannis says, the players that he trusts and the players that he doesn't trust. Yep. And it's obviously, to me, it's very clear to see at the moment, he just doesn't trust certain players to go out there and do the jobs that he wants.
Okay. Guys, this has been a great show. We've actually gone over an hour. It's been fantastic. Giannis, thank you as always for joining us today.
Great show, Russ. Loved it with the guys. A lot of good talking points today, for sure.
Absolutely. It really was. Max, you and I went at it a little bit, but I enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah, it was great. You said it was going to be like Stephen A. Smith first take, and we met that requirement.
I think we kind of went there. Very good. Okay, Tony, I hope you enjoyed the show.
Of course, always. And you know what? Myself and Yanis are ready to get the pay-per-view ready. You know, we're ready to promote it, Russ.
Yeah.
No, that was getting a little heated there, but it was good. But
That's what it's all about. That's what football's about. Opinions. It's all good.
That is, Max and I were getting into it, but you know what? I enjoyed it, and no ill will towards Max, and we respect each other, so it's all in good fun. Anyways, I do want to end and wrap up the show. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone that has watched live, but we do have to go. For Giannis, Max, and Tony, I'm Russ Goldman. Thank you as always for watching and listening to Cottage Talk, part of the Talk Sport Fan Network.